Hello world, I'm Mandy Mundo and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this video I will be going over the costs of our trip to the UK. We did this trip in April of 2022 and the cost is for two persons, so for myself and for Jeremy. So let's get started. So first up, transportation. We actually had this trip planned back in 2020, but we all know how that turned out. So easyJet didn't refund us our flights, instead they gave us flight credits, so we still got to use them 2 years later. So easyJet is a budget airline, so for our 2 round-trip flights it was actually very cheap to the UK. And then we bought some snacks on the easyJet airplane because it was like around dinner time and they didn't have food. They only had some drinks and some snacks. We flew out of Prague airport, so even though we live in Germany, Prague is really close to us. So when you drive into the Czech Republic, you have to get what's called a vignette. So it's like a toll sticker that you pay for depending on how long your stay is in the country of Czech. And then we paid for parking at the Prague airport as well. We did a rental car in the UK, but only for the middle part of our trip. So we were with our friends for the first part, and then we drove to Wales for the second part, and then drove into London to drop off the rental car. So we just had the rental car for a few days. That was £260. And the gas, we filled it up I think twice, so about £94 there, and had to pay a £7 toll at one point. The transportation in London, so the subway is called the Tube, and this was one mistake that I made. Was the first night I just bought tickets at the tube station, and it was very expensive, and I was like, why is it so much money? Well, I looked it up online later, and you can actually use your credit card or your debit card to pay at the turnstile of the tube, and it just charges you that way, and it charges you half the price. So I was like, well, that was stupid. So for the first night, I had to pay £25 for subway tickets, which is unacceptable. And then for the next 2 days in total, even getting us to the airport, only $47 in total. And then we had to put Otto in doggy daycare just like we always do. So that was £200 because this was, or sorry, €200 because this was about a 9-10 day trip. So about €20 a day is usually what it costs us to put him in daycare, which is pretty cheap compared to the United States. So my big mistakes. Well, what I did was I exchanged money at the airport because that's what I always do. I always exchange money at the airport. And I know that they probably charge a commission fee at other airports too, but it was never like it was this time. So my first mistake was that I exchanged money at the airport. The second mistake was that I exchanged euro instead of dollars, because usually when we're traveling somewhere, euro does a little bit better than the dollar. Well, not recently, and I didn't think things through, so I exchanged euro instead of dollars, and I exchanged about 400 to 500 euro, and then I only got about £260 out of it, and I was like, what the heck? And with the commission fee and then the euro to the pound, I ended up losing probably like $200. So that was a total snafu on my part. I didn't put it in my total cost here, but yeah, it was definitely a cost. So just word to the wise, when you go, don't exchange money at the airport like I did. So the first part of our trip was staying with our friends who live in England. So the lodging was free because we stayed at their house, which is very nice of them to put us up. We only spent about £178 on food and drinks. And then the activities we did for those first couple of days, we went to the Warwick Castle, which is in Warwickshire County. We went to the Duxford Imperial Air Museum, which Jeremy had been before, but he wanted to go back. And then we went bowling and go-karting, so about £178 on activities those first couple days. The middle leg of our trip was driving into Wales. So like I said, we rented a car and drove from England to Wales. It's about 4 hours from where we were staying. And we stayed at a castle stay, which was on the island of Anglesey, Wales. It's called the Château Rhianfa. So that was about $400. and then we spent £191 on food. The first restaurant that we ate at that night, it was called Dylan's. It wasn't as good as the second restaurant we ate at the second night. That one was a lot better. I had the best fish and chips I've ever had. So we actually wanted to eat dinner at the castle, but both nights we were there, the reservations were already booked out. So if you're going to the Château Rhianfa, then I recommend booking dinner ahead of time. Like I could have done. I just said, oh, it'll be fine, because we were there on a Monday night and a Tuesday night. I was like, it'll be fine, right? No, it was not fine. I think there was a wedding the second day we were there, so there was not dinner reservations available. The activities that we did in Wales was just a lot of the national park stuff at Zip World, so it was very expensive to do the zip line and then the Quarry Karts. But the underground Caverns tour, the obstacle course underground, was cheaper than those two things, and it was longer, and it was more fun. So in total, it was about $500 for all three activities for the two of us, but the Caverns weren't as expensive as the zip line and the carts. And then we got some souvenirs, so I get a magnet everywhere I go. I got a flag for the country of Wales, and then I bought some chocolate for some coworkers. And then also in the middle of our journey, we went to Windsor. We only stayed there for one night. So we stayed in a hotel in Eton, and Eton and Windsor, they're just like right next to each other. They're just separated by a small little bridge. So we stayed at the hotel there. And then food, we ate at the George the night that we were there. And the food was very cheap, only because when Jeremy got his pie, his meat pie at the table, it was still cold. So he asked for it to be sent back and heated up, and they took it off the bill, the pie he got and the beer. So our dinner was very cheap that night. Then we went into Windsor Castle, which was cheaper than going into the Warwick Castle. Very interesting. And we got some souvenirs while we were there. So Jeremy wanted a book of the Queen, and I got some biscuits or some cookies and a ornament and a magnet. And then the last leg of our trip was London. So we stayed there for 3 nights, and I did a hotel on Hotwire, which I've never done before for an actual trip. I've done it for overnight layovers at airports before, but never for an actual trip. So I got a pretty good deal, I think, $150 a night at a very nice London hotel. But with nice hotels, there's like always a catch. So at one point I used the phone to call the London Eye river cruise that we were about to do, because I was like, hey, did the payment go through? I just used the phone real quick in the hotel room because we don't have service in the UK, and I got charged for using the phone. I was like, what? I mean, I assume that hotels stopped doing that now, and it was a local call too, so it's just really funny. I had to pay 73 cents to pay for that phone call, and I noticed it as I was checking out. She's like, okay, you owe 73 pence, and I was like, what? And when she explained it to me, I said, oh, can I pay it in cash, because it's 73 pence, and I had it on me, and she's like, no, we can't accept cash. So I had to put 73 pence on my card. Anyways, I digress. So the food in London, I guess, everything in the UK I noticed was just very expensive, and the food especially in London. So the first night we were there, we went to a Michelin star restaurant / pub called the Harwood Arms, and it was about £155, but it was a very good meal. So I have no problem spending a lot of money on food when it's a fancy restaurant and it's delicious. Conversely, on our last night there, we went to a sushi restaurant that was near Piccadilly Circus and the Convent Market, and it was hip-hopping, it was packed, it looked really nice, and it wasn't that good. And it definitely wasn't filling, right? You'd have to order a lot of sushi rolls to be full, and it wasn't spectacular, and it cost £169. I was very disappointed the last night that we were there. So again, food very expensive, but I don't mind paying for it when it's going to be a very good meal. The activities that we did in London, so Jeremy wanted to go to Wimbledon, and it was about £50 for 2 of us to take the tour, and I thought it was pretty cool. So for a cheap, fun activity in London for you or a couple or a family, I think that that's actually a really good one because you can spend more time there than just the tour. Like you can go walk around the museum and stuff. So I thought that was pretty good. And we also went to a musical. We went and saw Back to the Future, the musical. So I wanted to see a musical and I let Jeremy pick which one. So he, of course, picked Back to the Future because it's one of his favorite movies. And I thought it was awesome. He didn't like it as much, but, you know, he was just a little sad that, what did he say? Oh, Biff. He's like, the character of Biff, the actor, was terrible. And Doc Brown, the guy, was not the real Doc Brown. And it's like, come on, Jeremy, like they have to make it a little bit different. But I thought it was actually really, really good. So I would recommend that musical to people who are going. And then we did the London Eye and the London Eye River Cruise. The souvenirs I got in London, we got a t-shirt at a pub, which Jeremy washed before he wore it, and it already kind of messed up the t-shirt. Like the font and the characters already started to fade because it was like that cheap plastic covering. I don't know. So I was very sad about that, but I got a Back to the Future t-shirt that's still holding strong. And then I got candy, a book, or Jeremy got a Wimbledon book, and then I got a puzzle of the Queen's Jubilee, because if you hadn't known already, it is the 70-year Jubilee of the Queen, so I got a puzzle to commemorate her 70 years, so I'm very excited about doing that puzzle at some point in the future. So in total, it was about $4,500, $4,550, and I think that's pretty expensive considering what I paid a lot of money for, like the food and a couple of the hotel stays, but we did save some money by staying with our friends. And then the car that we rented wasn't very expensive. It kind of was because it was for 4 days. And some of the activities we did were expensive, like the zip line and the Quarry carts. So my advice for traveling to the UK is that it is expensive, and don't exchange money at the airport. Don't do what I did. Just wait or bring dollars. Definitely don't bring euro. If you're going to Zip World in Snowdonia National Park, do the Caverns tour versus the zip line or the carts, because the zip line and the carts takes about 7 minutes of activity, whereas the Caverns tour takes about 1 to 2 hours of activity, and it's cheaper, and I thought it was more fun, so definitely worth it in my opinion. Buy food cheap, so we ate at a gas station one of the drives, and it was about £8 for some sandwiches, so yeah, buy food cheap when you can. Use your card, your credit card or debit card, actually on the turnstile at the tube instead of buying the ticket at the kiosk, because you'll get charged twice the price if you buy the ticket at the kiosk. And then most places in the UK did not accept cash, and that's really weird living in Germany, where some places don't even take card. In Germany, they only accept cash, so it was like the complete opposite when going to the UK. And actually, when we went to Wimbledon, there was some other people there buying souvenirs, and you could tell they were from Eastern Europe, but they were trying to pay cash for their souvenirs, and Wimbledon didn't accept cash. So they came up and asked me, like, hey, if I give you some pounds, can you pay for my souvenirs with your card? I said, sure. So yeah, like they are used to, Europeans are used to only carrying cash most of the time, or maybe not having a card. So it's just the complete opposite when you go to the UK. I guess that's probably how the States is right now. I don't know. I haven't been there very often, but yes, most places in the UK now don't accept cash. So food for thought. So that was our trip to the UK. Again, it was about 9 to 10 days, and we did it in April of 2022. And like all my trips, I'm always glad that I went, and I'm glad we got to see our friends that we haven't seen in a while. And it was just very expensive, but I still had lots of fun. So if you haven't looked at them already, I already have my UK videos up and running. There's about, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them, maybe. But they're already up there and you can check them out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.